Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to part two of the Ben Nevis Six Whiskies show. Hopefully, we won't run into any more tech issues. If we do, I sincerely apologize and won't subject you to another live stream until I figure out exactly why this seems to be a recurring issue. As we were saying, we had three whiskeys that we've tasted already, so I got three more. And I'm going to get this first one poured. Or the fourth one poured, I should say. See, and I think already we're in trouble. Let me take a quick look here. Hopefully not. But for whatever reason, my Mac is just like giving me major attitude. I don't know. Let me know if it goes bad. I apologize if it does. I might have to just like record this by itself. How are we looking right now? All right. Looks like we're doing okay. Here we go. Number 4. This one is Duncan Taylor, single cask, 9 years old. It is 2012 distilling, 2022 bottling, and I think it says oak cask. So I'm assuming that this one is going to be strictly bourbon. That's what we're looking at. Okay, so we're up to 9 years, and as we were talking about in part 1, this whiskey, despite its youth, that signature kind of oiliness, that fusty, very, very yeasty, barley forward, slightly new make note is here, but boy, I'm getting a nice little fruit note in this. Again, this one just says oak cask, so I'm assuming it's bourbon. It's a single cask. Again, this is Duncan Taylor. Not bad, not bad. All right. Apologies for making this 2 videos, but let's go in here with Ben Nevis number 4. Okay, this is really good. The dryness on the finish, definitely there. But boy, the difference between the 5 and the 9 year with the bourbon cask, definitely noticeable. Definitely noticeable. This is actually impressively richer. Again, oily. Wow. Yeah, I think this is a bourbon cask, Daniel. Daniel asked what cask. It just says oak cask. So 53.9. Pretty delicious. I'm not gonna lie. Again, it's still I'm still can't quite tell if it's the new make youth of these whiskeys or if this is just that Ben Nevis signature style. But we're up to 9 years, so we shouldn't be getting too much new make on this. Floral, herb, it's floral, it's sweet, it's got this kind of background spice to it, but it's not spice in like a pepper way. Again, it's this kind of like oily. Wow. I'm gonna try some water on this one. This Duncan Taylor is really good. Let's check it out with water. I'm becoming a fan of Ben Nevis. I'll tell you that already. I know. I know, right? Real talk. Oh, wow. Boy, for just 9 years on this. There's got to be something to this, the youth of these Ben Nevis whiskeys and like the frequency in which you get these young bottlings. from independent bottlers. It must be something to do with their style. This is delicious. It's got complexity. It's rich, toffee, honey. Again, bourbon cask is there, but then in the background, you just have this kind of grassy funk to it. Nothing quite like it. Not like a Benromic, not like a Springbank. There's nothing quite like this. And I'm kind of here for it. So the Adelphi is my favorite so far, followed by the House of Gluns and then the Signatory. I think this one is actually going to take second on the list so far. So the Duncan Taylor 9-year-old bourbon cask is now our second favorite of the Ben Nevis whiskeys here. This is really quite good. Man, I think I've had two. This Duncan Taylor, I'm really impressed. This is also single cask. Bit sour on the end. But now we get to look at the standard bearer. So maybe everything I've been saying or experiencing with these is going to make sense, and maybe it won't. Because the next one we have for number 5 is your straight up distillery bottling Ben Nevis 10. This is bottled at 46% ABV. From the distillery, what does it have to say? Not a whole lot. There's a bunch on the back of their history. Yes, we know Ben Nevis is the tallest mountain in Scotland. It doesn't say anything about non-chill filtration or natural color. Looking at the color of this bottle, tough to say. I don't know what to think of this. I mean, this is probably sherry burn, maybe? I don't know. It's in, let's see. Foot of the mountain. Yep, so it's right at the foot of the mountain of the Ben Nevis Mountain. So there you go. Tough to say what the bottling is on this. We're going to find out, though. Let's get it in the glass. There's Mr. White. Thanks for coming back, bro. Sorry about the little mishap there. Hopefully it'll be the only one. Ooh. So, wow. So this is going to be the measuring stick for all of the 4 we just had on our list before we make the big jump to 21 years. Ben Nevis, 10 years old. I don't know when this was released. It doesn't say. That's the bottling. This is the one that you can probably find in the store, if you can find it at all. That's the color. Let's check it out. Whoa. Whoa. This is very different. Very, very different. Marmalade. Like orange marmalade. A ton of it. This is the first one I'm not picking up the new make spirit note at all. Wow. This is just a full-on orange marmalade, jammy. Oh, someone said apricot. Yeah. Apricot big time. 46%er. Well, this is the most unique. This almost has a brandy quality to it. Let's check it out. Ben Nevis number 5. Oh man. Rice, how you doing? Oh. Oh wow, this is so good. Okay. That kind of new make spirity, youthful, feisty, green, yeasty note is there, but it is more subdued and balanced with the cast. A little bit short on the finish, but the oiliness of the texture is there. The richness of the whiskey is there. The nose definitely made me get a little more of a brandyish quality. That has went away. Great question, Papa. I don't know. As I mentioned earlier, this is one of the only distillers, the only, I believe, Scotch whiskey distiller that uses brewer's yeast in their fermentation. All I can say is that, like, confidently, is that the style of this Ben Nevis stuff is all its own. It's not like a dramatic departure, like you're going to think you're drinking something that's not a whiskey, but it's there. It's got a bit of a funk. It's got a bit of a, again, it almost, it's like it exaggerates a new make spirit kind of, note to it. This one also very cask driven, but boy, you can still get that signature. And I'm starting to really actually think that this kind of, so one of the things I've been speculating about is, like, I see a lot of young independent bottlings of Ben Nevis. So we, like, some of these we tasted 2 5 years, there's a 7, there's a 9. I'm starting to think that in part it's because it really showcases the style, right? Because if you have it in there for too long in a cask, maybe it just kind of washes all that away. Not to say it's not good. But this at 10 years, distillery bottling, the straight up regular stuff, this is quite good. Let's put a little water on it. It's 46%. Again, I can't tell you. I feel like this is fake color. I don't know. The nose is just so much orange marmalade, apricot. It's not bad. This is pretty good. This is a very competent, easy. This is the most accessible of them, which isn't a surprise, given the fact that this is their 10 from the distillery. I'm not saying it's totally accessible, but this feels like when you think about having a scotch in an old, whiskey bar in Scotland with, nicely worn bar, lots of bottles behind it, it's got that vibe to it. It really does. It tastes like an old school scotch, like maybe something that somebody would say, "Hey man, I've been making my own single malt. Come try it." It really has a bespoke nature to it. If I hate to use that word, but it really does. It's something all its own. I quite like this. I'm guessing that this is a sherry cask. Perhaps this was, bourbon as well, but I think this is just straight up sherry. It's really hard to tell. And it's a light sherry. It's nothing like this Adelphi. Perfumey, flowery nose again. Slightly dry finish. I don't love the nose, but everything else is quite enjoyable. Hey, this ain't bad. There's something about this. These whiskeys are lively. Ben Nevis whiskey's got a lot of like effervescence, a lot of sprightliness. They're very lively whiskeys. And I don't mean that in the sense of like spice or overpowering or anything like that. I mean, it just feels very fresh. This is good. This is good. Okay. I'm going to just put it over here. We'll do a final ranking in a little bit. But the 6th Ben Nevis that we're going to look at, and again, thank you all for joining part 2. Apologies for the tech issues before. I hope we're not having any of them now. But I got one more Glencairn here, and we are going way off to a completely different land with this one. We have done 2 5s, a 7, a 9-year, and a 10-year. Now we are going blast off, 21 years old, Ben Nevis Archives. This is the whiskey base. If if you're familiar with that website. If you're not, you should be. This is from their bottlings. Whiskey Base. This is a single cask, 21 years old, 48.2%, 21-year-old. It is unchill filtered. It is natural color. It is hogsheads. So this is a sherry cask. So we're going way into 21-year-old territory. What a difference this will make, I'm sure. How this one is not going to be the tops of the list, I don't know. Yeah, I agree. I was a little hesitant. I was like, Whiskey Base is fun. I mean, I know they know their stuff, but yeah, take a look at the art on this. That's pretty cool, hey? And they give you all the relevant info in the back. You probably can't see, it's a little blurry, but it says here the cask number, the bottle number. This was distilled in 1998. It's unchill filtered. It's natural colored. It was bottled in 2019. Blah, 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 blah. They give you a lot of information. Yeah. They even got the little Whiskey Base logo. So here we go. I'm going to let that sit for just a second. I see we got 10 folks in again. It's great to see everybody. I apologize for the having to break this up into 2 videos. It does look like we're doing all right. Okay, I'm going to finish up this 10, which I'm really enjoying. Leo, what's up, buddy? Out there in the Sun Valley, Southwest United States, Phoenix, Arizona, our good friend Leo. How are you, sir? Again, I don't love the nose on the regular 10, but I do like the style, the way it lands. This is the most accessible Ben Nevis. And I think it'd be a good introduction for folks. I really do. Nice. We had to split this into 2 videos because I had some internet issues, but we've done 2 5-year-olds of very different maturations. We did a 7, we did a 9, we just did the 10, and now we're going to move to a 21. This Ben Nevis 10 is not bad at all. I think the price retail on this, $60, $50. I'd grab this. If you want to try something different, something old school, which again, I'm not the authority on old school whiskeys or styles, but I'll just tell you it has this musty, dusty, old Scotch bar vibe to it. It's pretty good. I'm becoming a fan. I'm really enjoying this Ben Nevis journey with y'all. And we are going to top it off with our 6th Ben Nevis in just a minute. I should remind folks, whiskey review coming up your way probably the next couple days. Balvenie 15-year-old Madura cask finish. It is a travel retail exclusive Balvenie. But I did do a nice review of it. I hope you guys get a chance to see it when it posts, and would love to hear your comments. Balvenie being one of my favorite distilleries. And be very curious what your feedback is on the whiskey, on Balvenie in general. That'll be good. Greg, thoughts on John Glazer leaving Compass Box? I had a nice chat with him prior to the announce. Felt humbled above his words. This is the first time hearing about that. Damn. Well, the only thing that never changes is the fact that things change, right? I'm sure he'll stay in the whiskey world. I think by and large, Compass Box has been a huge success story in terms of the quality of the whiskeys they put out. I've had some really great Compass Box whiskeys. There's some that I've found unaffordable. There's some that have been sort of mid. But look, generally speaking, on the blended side of single malts, or the blended side of malts, I should say, it's not a single malt. Look, I mean, they've done a lot of the yeoman's work of kind of elevating blends, and he's really the reason for that. I have a really good story about Compass Box. which I'll tell you right now. So I know I've said this before on other streams, but I'll share it again just because we got some folks here. This is one of the cooler whiskey stories that I've had. Back when I lived in Philadelphia, I was part of the Philadelphia Whiskey Society, which honestly was one of the best whiskey groups that I was ever a part of. The guy who ran it, he was from Taiwan, just top notch. He would come back with Cavalans. The guy knew more about whiskey than you can imagine. Just did an absolute great job running that group. One of the events that he had, I want to say this was a 3 or 4 years ago, was with a guy named Robin Robinson. Robin Robinson has wrote a book called what is that thing called? Let me take a quick look. It's I got it signed by him. It's called, one of these types of things, The Complete Whiskey Course. Okay. I got this at the event. It's Knowledge and Whiskey are bottomless glasses. Sage words from Mr. Robinson. He signed the book. Cool dude. We talked about his book. We tasted some whiskeys. Oops. So as we were tying one on, and everybody brought some stuff to from home that we could sample and everything like that. We're having a good time. So Robin tells us a story, and he says, "Look, one of my first jobs, because the conversation turned to Compass Box. One of my first jobs," he said, "was basically being the Compass Box, what wasn't known as brand ambassador at the time, but effectively that's what it was." And he said, "Yeah, I was running around the East Coast of the United States, talking about Compass Box. And I got a call one day from Sean Glaser. And he said, 'Robin, we need you to go down to this port in New Jersey.' And he was like, 'Sure.' He's like, 'Well, like, these are the numbers, the line numbers. Like, we need you to pull these bottles that are going to be arriving. So when you get there, like, essentially get these bottles and remove them from going to market.' And he's like, 'Sure.' Like, why is that? The bottles were of Compass Box Hedonism, which, if you know, is one of their first releases. It is a blended malt, if I'm not mistaken. Or I believe it's a blended malt. I have to get this right. Hang on just one second. It is called Hedonism. Is it a blended malt? I think it was like one of the first blended malt. It's a blended grain. I'm sorry. It's a blended grain whiskey. Okay. And he said, 'Look, it's a blended grain. This is Compass Box Hedonism.' He's like, 'Look, Robin, we need you to go down and get these bottles.' And he was like, 'Why is that?' He says, 'Because that's a legal thing. Calling it, a blended malt, a blended grain, a single malt, that's legal definitions.' And he said, 'Look, what we found out is that a good amount of the bottles that were sent in that package to the United States from the place we were bottling at the time, this is early Compass Box days, were tainted because the lines weren't cleaned. It's tainted with Glenfarclas 25. So we need to pull these off because they're not actually single grain whiskeys or blended grain whiskeys, because the lines that these first batches of Hedonism went through were previously used for Glenfarclas 25, and they weren't cleaned.' So Robin, being Robin, I guess, went down there, of course, and got these bottles and made sure that they didn't go to the stores. But he didn't destroy them. In fact, he brought one with him to the tasting, and so we all tasted a Compass Box Hedonism first release tainted with Glenfarclas 25. So that's my Compass Box story. That was a really cool experience. Could you really tell? Not really. The power of suggestion might have been working a little bit in our heads, but yeah. It was a cool experience, right? I mean, we literally had a tainted black market compass box, illicit compass box. Yeah, definitely illicit. And he says he had boxes of these in his basement. And of course, over the years, what a great story, right? So he goes around, shilling his book and all this. And he's telling the compass box story. And then he's like, oh, by the way, you want to try some? So, pretty cool. So yes, I've had a compass box hedonism that has been, sullied by a Glenfarclas 25 sherried whiskey. So that's my John Glazer compass box story. It's all I know about them, other than the fact that, I do like their whiskey. I really enjoyed most of it. Some of it's a little overpriced, but what can you do these days? And honestly, I wish him well, whatever he gets into next. I don't know what it'll mean for compass box. But look, I mean, let's be real. I can't follow what's going on with compass box. They put out so much stuff. So, hopefully it leads to positive outcomes. Not that there were, things were going bad, but it'll be interesting to see what he does. Greg, have you heard? I had to try one in his lab in 2007, stunning Canadian market exclusive that also I couldn't get a bottle of it. The key malt was a liquid. Oh, okay. Tainted by Glenfarclas. There you go. Reminds me of his first spice tree that had. Yes. You know what, Leo? Now that you mentioned that, I think that's why. I think that was like the first story he told about his gig at Compass Box, because he was like the first guy in the U.S. before they were called brand ambassadors. He said, running around talking Compass Box. And, people were, of course, like, oh, my God, do you have the spice tree controversy and all of that? And then he talked about that and then pivoted to the, the situation with the hedonism. The thing is like, you can't really tell. It's not like the color was dramatically different. Of course, I didn't have a regular hedonism to compare it to, but I believed him. So nonetheless, very cool story. And yeah, look, when you get into Scotch, really, well, let's take it. When you don't know anything about Scotch, the difference between a single malt and a blend means nothing. When you do know something about Scotch, you're usually immediately braggadocious about single malts, and like single malts are the end all be all. And then maybe somewhere in your journey, you start, experimenting with some blends, and you get an opportunity to taste one or two that's really good. And Compass Box was usually that really good, right? Compass Box might have been one of the whiskeys that made people kind of, I'm not saying it revived blends, because obviously the most popular Scotch whiskeys in the world are blends, right? Johnny Walker, Chivas, whatever. But those aren't, serious whiskeys for the most part. But you have to wonder if, like, among people who are like us in a way, like really love Scotch, love learning about Scotch, love trying new Scotches, like for folks who were around during that era and were at that point in their journey during that time when Compass Box are getting big, I wonder if it was like a real game changer. I was not really in the scene, as it were, back then, so I can't comment on it. But like, look, there's been a lot of Compass Box releases that have been quite exciting to me. I mean, you think about like, what is that one? This one, Compass Box No Name 3, which got like Lafroy and Talisker, all this stuff in it. I love the Spice Tree. Spice Tree was one of my like favorite whiskeys ever. When I first had it, I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was like liquid gingerbread. It was just like, this is dessert whiskey. It was so good. And then you have things like, what is that one? The really accessible ones, Compass Box Glasgow Street Blend, which is that like sherried peated whiskey that's really inexpensive that you can find anywhere. I mean, talk about a great introduction to peat at a good price. That's a great whiskey. They also, the Glasgow blend, which is solid. I mean, they had some of those lower end ones. And then, their fancy ones. I mean, my favorite of all time right there, Spice Tree Extravaganza. Can't mess with that. Whiskey's so good. It tastes nothing like the Spice Tree, which threw me off at first, but fantastic. There's a bunch of good ones. In fact, oh shit, I mean, I got a couple here. I got a couple like Peat Monster's pretty good. Anyways, I don't want to go too far on this, but you know what I'm saying. Artist blend. Farkless strikes again, Sicily. There is no good Glenfarclas that doesn't say family cask on it. It's been my approach. Glasgow blended naked malt. Yeah, I liked Extravaganza. Too bad it didn't. Too bad it didn't get me a bottle. Oh yeah, dude, Extravaganza. If you can still find it, it's fucking incredible. But speaking of incredible, we got to get back to the Ben Nevis. So thanks for sharing that, Greg. I didn't know that. The last year or so, I've been kind of off the whiskey tubes for a while. So I'm a little bit out of the loop. Doesn't mean I haven't been tasting good whiskeys, which I have. That right there, I have not opened yet, but that's my new crown jewel. That is a Highland Park 30-year-old 48.1%er, potentially distilled in the late 70s. I don't know. That's the big jewel that I've got since the last time I was streaming frequently. And it's sitting there, and it's going to get some dust, I'm sure. I don't know if and when I'll ever open that. I will. I mean, at some point. Why own it if you're not going to open it? But I got a killer deal on it. It's a very old Highland Park 30, and I'm very excited. Yeah, I'll do that. Sorry, man. Yeah, I'll do that. Okay. We're going to round out this Ben Nevis tasting. And again, thank you all for hanging out for part 2. Sorry about part 1 kind of having some tech issues at the end, but we seem to be running smooth now. Apparently, I just needed to do a nice reset. Here it is, 21 years old. Tail of the tape, 48.2% ABV. This is from Archives Bottling. That's Whiskey Base's independent bottling. Non-chill natural hogshead, so we're looking at sherry. This is a huge jump. This is 11 years more than the last one we had. Let me just clean the palate here. I should mention retail on this. I think I paid probably like $200 for this. I don't remember. It was around that. It was not as pricey as it should be. Okay. So this is what I've been waiting for. While we've been on this journey together, y'all, I've been talking about this almost new make spirit note, this foostiness, this industrial note, whatever the hell you want to call it. It's a hard note to describe, but you know it when you smell it. And I can tell you right now that this 21-year-old whiskey has it. If you poured this for me and I smelled it blind, I wouldn't know it was 21 years old. I would think this was younger. So I'm now getting pretty much convinced that this is not just like a youthfulness as we saw in the younger whiskeys, but rather that this is a feature of Ben Nevis. And I'm here for it. I'm really enjoying the way this works. This is rich. It's deep. It's got a nice caramel toffee note to it. There's a lot of orange zest. There's a lot of apple, herbal. This is all over the place in the best possible ways. But that's that same note. It is a thread that has run through these. And I now think I can speak about Ben Nevis convincingly when that I'll know it's a Ben Nevis. Either it's a young whiskey or it's a Ben Nevis. That's the way it'll work. What a nice nose. Wow. Here we go. Yeah. I mean, this is clearly the winner. Incredibly rich. Oily. Something we've seen on the Ben Nevis as young as 5. Incredibly long finish, roasted coffee bean, hazelnut. Not really that drying, rich, kind of stewed fruits. Plum, maybe even a little bit of raisin. Light chocolate. A little bit of orange citrus, is chocolate covered orange a thing? Because that's what it tastes like. But it still retains a bit of that green kind of, I wish I could think of a better word. I've said industrial like 15 times, which just means nothing really other than what it means in my head. It just has this like oiliness. This is a great whiskey. And it's our winner of the Ben Nevis 6 Ben Nevis Challenge, which I'm now calling it. I mean, we all knew this was going to be the case. It's not even a question. An absolute stunning whiskey. And I love how it's still retaining this similar thread. I can't say definitively that like this is a feature of Ben Nevis, but I feel like now that I've had a 21, it has to be. It's like a whiskey that embraces new make spirit notes as not a feature of youth, but as like a note to be revered, to build around, to center as like your signature style. Because it's in here. It's still in here in this 21, just like it was in that 5. Both 5s. I'll put a couple drops on here. This is stunningly good. Apple pie. Espresso, like an espresso and apple pie. Like combining those two things together. Dark, rich, chocolatey coffee notes. Cinnamon. Apple. With water, it's just even more citrus coming to the forefront. Lemon, lime. Fuck. Shouldn't have said that. I don't want to get demonetized. I don't even think this is monetized. Nobody paid. There's not enough attention on this anyways, which is good. Okay, this is great. This is a great whiskey. I wish I knew how much I paid for this. Let me just do a quick Google search. Archives been, let's see what the email tells me. Yeah, this might have been, this was south of $200. I remember that, but not by much. Oh, you can find one at K&L right now for $148 if you're in California. K&L Wine says it for $149. It's an absolute buy at that price. Yeah. Okay. Absolute buy, I think. This is a good whiskey. Okay. Let's do this. So we've had over 2 videos. We've had 6 Ben Nevis whiskeys. Number 1 is the Archives for both value and quality. The 21-year-old Archives is the winner by far. No surprise there. Number 2 in the list is going to be the Adelphi First Fill Sherry 5-year-old. So we're going in a way different direction. Number 3, 9-year-old Duncan Taylor bourbon cask single. It's a single bourbon cask. Number 3. Number 4 is the regular 10 Ben Nevis. Number 5, Chicago's own House of Glun's single cask 5-year bourbon is 46%. Number 5. And bringing up the tail end is the 7-year-old Signatory. Score-wise, Signatory 3, House of Glun's 3, Ben Nevis 10, 3.25. Duncan Taylor 3.35. Adelphi 3.75. Archives 4.25. Those would be your final scores on those if you were going to, if I was going to put scores on them. And yeah, that's the Ben Nevis. Pretty good, huh? How are you doing on the stream? I see we got 11 folks in, which is great. Sorry, I've been a little negligent on the chat. That's not a bad price, though, even 200 euros. For a 21-year-old Ben Nevis at this point, I mean. So my final kind of feeling is like, I get why there's a cult following for Ben Nevis. Thank you, Daniel. I get why there's a cult following for this. It's an interesting style. Again, the main thing that I learned about Ben Nevis is that they are the only distillery that uses brewer's yeast, which is a very old school way of doing things, in their wooden washback fermentation stills. So that might be the thing that we attribute to Ben Nevis's signature style. What can we say? But we're going to round it out with a non-Ben Nevis, because it looks like the stream's going well, and I'd love to hang for a little bit if you guys want to hang. We were talking Compass Box. Should we do a Compass Box? I mean, I got to move Jason Voorhees, but I'm up for doing a extravaganza. Not the only one. Interesting. Okay, I thought it was the only one. Oh, do you know what other distilleries are using brewer's yeast? I'd be curious to hear. What do you guys think? Should we do Spice Tree Extravaganza? What are you guys drinking on? Let me know in the chat. What are you guys sipping on? And again, a quick reminder, Balvenie 15 Madeira. That's going to be the next review that I drop. I know it's been a week or two since, or 2 or 3 weeks since I did a review, but I got one coming your way, y'all. Let me know what's in your chat. I'm game to drink almost anything that's open. Ardbeg 19 Trevan. God, I love Trevan. Maybe peat's the way to go. Something with some peat. I don't know. Ben Romick. Fascinating. Now that explains quite a bit. That explains why I mentioned earlier, like, oh, it's got this fousing. It's kind of like not quite like Ben Romick, but it does, or Springbank. That explains a lot. I did not know that. Thank you for sharing that, Bob. Appreciate you, man. Okay, well, interesting. I had heard that they were the only ones. So maybe, man, Daniel Haston. I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. $5 super chat in from our good man on the Louisiana, East Texas borderlands. Dude, I appreciate you. You are the man. Okay, we're going to round things out with, I need something with some peat. I think we go peat. Peat or the Compass Box Extravaganza. I don't know. Or maybe a Lafroig 25. I don't fucking know. Tomat and decades. Carl, what's up in Belgium, man? Good to see you. I thought I saw you comment earlier. I'm sorry if I missed you. Carl from Belgium is in the house. Ken, what's up? Any Kilheron? No. I think I have one, but it's buried somewhere. Maybe two. I don't have one. I'd quite go digging for it. But yeah, no Kilkerans. This is always the worst. Nobody's vibing on the Spice Tree Extravaganza, so we ain't gonna do that. We should go Cavalan Vinho Barrique. We need something big, something rich, something that'll just bring it all home. Artbog? Manzanilla. Let's see. I haven't had a Kilkerran recently. I like their stuff, but I don't know. I don't gravitate towards it in a way that I feel like. I know that there are a lot of Port Charlotte things. Yeah, let's do a Port Charlotte. I know there's a lot of folks who love Kilkerran, and I know exactly the Port Charlotte we're going to do. We're going to do this. Okay, we'll bring it home. Port Charlotte Valanche. This is the RIC02. This is I believe it's a single cask distillery bottling. It is 16 years old. Am I wrong on that? 17. Port Charlotte 17, RIC02. I think it's his first fill Riola hogsheads. One of my favorite Port Charlottes ever. This is the way to go. Good call. Let's do this. It does. It does. Maybe we'll go to that after. Who knows? Good call on the Port Charlotte. Oh man. Oh, I should have showed the ABV on this. So yeah, this is a 17-year-old Port Charlotte. It is 50.1. 603 bottles. Okay. Can you ever go wrong with Port Charlotte? Yeah. I mean, it was honestly, it's the easiest one to grab. That 2007 is at the Rockside Farms. That's not even open, so I'm not going to bother with that. And we need peat. I think I have an MC01 back there, which is probably my favorite Port Charlotte ever, which is the Marsala cask. I love Marsala. Oh man, y'all. Okay, here's what I'd love to hear for the folks that are hanging out. You can only have whiskeys from 3 distilleries for the rest of your living days. What are your 3 choices? Drop it in the chat. And hey, if I get another super chat, I'll do another whiskey. How about that? We'll do something even greater than the Port Charlotte. We'll see what the appetite is. Yeah, MC01 was the MC01 is the Marsala. Marsala is my favorite. So I have a Lecheg Marsala. I got a couple others. I got a Bushmills Causeway Marsala. Marsala is just where it's at. So yeah, you got 3 distilleries for the rest of your days. You can only drink from those 3. Scotch, 3 Scotch distilleries, which implies single malt. What are your 3? I know mine, and I'll share them as we go along here. Looks like I got a little bit of cork in this. This bottle's been. Wow. Hey, Daniel, do you like Springbank? Oh, you do. Carl goes Springbank, Lecheg, and Aaron. I really like that. Damn, Carl. Our boy over in Belgium's going hard in the paint here, man. He's throwing it down. I'll be surprised if none of you include Springbank in your in your list. Here's Kenan, Bruichladdich, Springbank, Glendronach. I love it. Close between Aaron and wow, man, Aaron fans in the house. Springbank, Lagavulin, Glen Cadam. Wow. Okay. I like that Lagavulin drop. Now, but just remember, with Bruichladdich, you get Port Charlotte. Like with Springbank, you get Hazelburn and Longrow, I suppose. Here's Daniel. Springbank, Bruichladdich, and Highland Park. You know my answers. We talked about this the other day. Dude, what are you doing, man? You throw me under the bus here. Here's Leo. Bruichladdich, Bunnahabhain, the third one is tough. I'm not cheating. There's no right answer to this. There's only wrong answers, right? I mean, it's Scotch. There's so much good Scotch. Like, could you ever live your life without ever tasting an Old Palmy again? Could you ever live without ever having a Bunnahabhain again? Could you ever live without having a fucking independent bottled Glenlivet, right? I mean, there's so much. But it's fun. Let's speculate. Speculation is fun. I have not seen it sub $240, which is, to me, is just too much. I can't. I love it, but I'll just get an Octomore. I just want that more. Here's Papa in the house. He's bringing it down. Ardbeg, Lefroy, Lagavulin plus one good bicycle. Ring, ring. Papa wins. That's a great answer. As long as that bike maintains its internal stability, you can get to all three of those distilleries. Or just Port Allen, Brora, and Rosebank. Okay. Sure. Okay. Active. Well, there's, let's split hairs. So mine would be Bruichladdich, Springbank, and Highland Park. So Daniel Haston and I apparently completely agree. The man, I'm in Chicago. He's in Texas. We couldn't be more different, but yet here we are unifying over the three distilleries. Those would be my three, and here's why. So Bruichladdich, quality of release, variety of release, and the fact that Port Charlotte and Octomore would be in there. Got to include it. Springbank is Springbank. And if you've had a good Springbank, you know why you can't ever really beat Springbank. And then finally, I just feel like my Scotch life wouldn't be complete without Highland. And look, I dislike so much of their marketing stuff as the rest of us. I dislike the fact that they put out more releases than you can count and you don't know which ones to buy. I dislike that they have gotten less quality over the years. But I will say this, at the end of the day, maybe I'm just a sucker, but at the end of the day, that signature style is just untouchable. It really is. I absolutely love Highland Park. There's nothing like it. There's nothing. It's its own thing. It's not. It distinguishes itself from others, and it has a signature style that I just absolutely love. And so, look. I mean, they could put out as many Valhallas and Valknuts and Val Kilmers and whatever that they want, and I'll demur and kind of be like, why are you doing this? You're sullying your brand. But at the end of the day, come on, man. Highland Park 12, Highland Park 18, Highland Park 21, Highland Park 25. Their signature house style is just perfect for my palate. And so I can't not go without Highland Park. And this is the hard thing about this is there's always blind spots, right? I mean, when you choose one, you're not choosing the other. I love Bunnahabhain. I love Ben Romick. I like Ben Riach. Although they're not as noticeable in terms of a style, like their house style. They're not as distinguished. But This is why it's a fun speculation. But yeah, that would be my list. Apparently, Daniel and I are on the same page. Springbank, Brooklady, Highland Park. It would really make me sad never to have an Lackawanna or a Lefroy again, or an art bag. But this is the way we go. Kleinlich. Kleinlich is good, but Kleinlich is tier 2 to me. Like, here's the thing about Kleinlich. To get a lot, like, first of all, Kleinliches are overpriced. Secondly, to get a Kleinlich that you want that's really going to showcase it, you're paying an extravagant like extravagant amount. Otherwise, you just have the 14, which is like a, I guess if I'm not going to offend anybody by saying this, Kleinlich 14 is a like slightly above average decent whiskey, right? Kleinlich seems to like they just don't have a lot of accessible stuff for most people to try, right? How many times have you looked at a whiskey website and there's that like signatory vintage Kleinlich 24 that's like, $500 or something, I don't know if anybody's had that. I'm sure it's great, but I've never, Quad Cities is in the house. What up, Chris? Good to see you, man. Thanks for joining us for part 2. Always good to see Chris. I believe it, but again, put something out of the market we can buy, right? I mean, I'm not going to throw down $500 on most whiskey, right? That's an insane amount of money. But if I could, is Kleinlich 23 signatory going to be on the top 5 of the list of $500 whiskeys I'm going to buy? Probably not. Not because it's not good. Eric, we did throw down the caveat the other night that the indie bottles don't count on the list. No, they don't. In which case you could, like, what does Kleinlich put out other than the 14? If there's no indie bottles, then you're screwed, right? Which makes Brooklady and Highland Park. Although Highland Park Indies, I don't know. I wish Highland Park would just like stop with the silly marketing. We would all be a lot happier. I will say that if we could expand it to a top 5, Balvenie would be in there, and then probably Lefroy. Because you know what? At the end of the day, there's a lot of better heated whiskeys than most Lefroys, but there's nothing like Lefroy. Does that make sense? A Lefroy 10 cast strength is like always going to be the signature flavor of Isla to me. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. And it's like, do you even, like, if you went into a good whiskey shop and looked at the Highland Parks they have, I mean, your head would spin. It's like Valhalla, Valkyrie, Valknut, Valfather, Valerie. Who fucking knows which ones of those to buy? They're all NAS. They're all ambiguous in terms of their ABVs, always like between 43 and 46. They never have like obvious, cask influence written on there. I think there's been a few that they've been, forthright about, but I don't know. I guess just for me, like Highland Park, despite all of the warranted criticism, their style is it's just the best. It's just one of the best. One of the best, I should say. One of the best. It's not the best. It's one of the best. That's just me. This portion kills, by the way. $150 for the 500 mil. Worth it. Mr. White. Well, not anymore. Definitely not anymore. I bought a Springer 21, which is the most expensive Springbank I ever bought. It's the last Springbank I ever bought. It's a 21-year-old rum cask But the one with the rum, the 2023 release, unbelievable. It's just unfortunate that they're completely unaffordable. I have a soft spot for Ardmore. Coal-fired stills. Oh, damn, Papa. I didn't know that, nor did I know. I'm completely ignorant about Ardmore. I think I've maybe had one, so I can't speak to it. But they're peated, right? If I'm not mistaken. I've always been interested. Daniel says, I just think you can't find what you want. Think if you can't find what you want with Spring Break, Brook Ladia RHP, what are you actually looking for? Well, I'll tell you this: with Ben Nevis, you're looking for a as we've just experienced, you're looking for something very different. Here's the thing: Port Charlotte is good, but it ain't Lefroy, and it ain't Ardbeg. It's just not. I like Port Charlotte, and I think it's passable, and I love Octomore, despite it being way overpriced. But overpriced in terms of whatever, it's all relative. But there's a signature style that certain distilleries have that you got to compromise on just because of the variety. I choose Bruichladdich over others on Islay, not because I think that they have the most quintessential Islay peated malt, but rather that they have the most variety. And variety is going to be important if it's the only thing you can drink for the rest of your life. Otherwise, Lefroy has nothing for variety. They finally put out that 10 sherry cask, which was pretty mid. But still, Lefroy 10 cask strength is better than 5 Port Charlottes. Just because it's Lefroy and it's got that signature Lefroy thing going. And honestly, I did a video back, and if folks are interested, go check it out. I did a video of Ardbeg 10 versus Lefroy 10 versus Port Charlotte 10. And you can see where they all landed in my tasting. And they're all good. One of them is not quite as good as the others, but I'll leave that to your imagination or go check it out. Because, it's about what you like, but it's also about the provincial nature of it, right? Does it capture the essence of something? For me, I can not like a whiskey, but I can appreciate that it captures a style and an energy for a specific type region of Scotland. It makes me think about being in a certain place at a certain time, as I was alluding to with the Ben Nevis 10. There are certain whiskeys that can just kind of they bring with them a lot of history and a lot of sense of place and time. And I know this sounds esoteric, but I really believe it's true. That to me actually elevates it, or at least creates a signature experience all on its own, even if it's not something that I ultimately, want to buy 3 bottles of. Right? It's about the experience, where you have it, when you have it. There's a whiskey that hits the right note at the right time. That kind of thing. And so I was having a bit of that experience with the Ben Nevis 10. I just felt like it conjured up certain feelings for me. And that's kind of part of the joy of the journey, right? Is, it's not just about hyper analyzing flavor notes or something, which is, again, at the end of the day, mostly subjective. There's some objectivity to it, but they're mostly subjective. You get the opportunity to how it impacts you and how it makes you feel. And that's the fun of it, right? When I pour a Lefroy on a cold Chicago winter day, it's magic, right? I don't care if it's a Lefroy Select. It hits the right note. And so, there's certain distilleries that I think, for me, just have that style and that weight with them. And Highland Park being one of them. I don't think I've ever had an Indian knock. Mr. White says, are you looking to get the PC 18? No. I'm not, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm drinking a PC-17 right now, which I paid half the money for, which is probably higher ABV. It's a single cask. Not to like poo-poo it. It's just too much money, man. I don't know. I'm not paying $250 for a Port Charlotte 18. If I hear good things about it, maybe, but no, man, that's not really I'm not really feeling that. Is anybody else going to buy it? Has anybody else bought it? Has anybody bought the 30? Or the Brooklotti 30? There's like a Brooklotti 30 too, right? 30 also not 32-year-old. Has anybody got those? It is. It's like $250. I'm not paying $250 for that. I mean, let me just ask you guys honestly. Do you really think an 18, like, what is it bottled at? 50? Is it 50 like the others? Is that really going to deliver at $230? You can still find Redbreast 21s for $230. You can find Glendronach Allardyce for less than that. You can find, no, not that. You can get a Calvalan Vino Barrique. I don't know, man. I'm skeptical about it. Not that I think it'll be bad. I don't think it's worth it. It just seems like a lot, man. For an 18-year-old whiskey. Are they going to be doing it like every year? It's like a different maturation or something. Okay. For like, if you go to the UK for $30 more, you can get a 19-year-old Ardbeg Trevan for like $250 with shipping, and I guarantee it's going to be better than the Port Charlotte. Guarantee it. If you've ever had a Trevan, I have the batch 4, which I got wicked cheap, and let me tell you, it's absolute magic. Ken's going to get it. Ken's going to be our taste, not the 30. No. Saw PC 190. 50. Okay, 55.3 cast strength. I don't know, man. That's a lot. But I suppose with the way things are these days, what are you going to do, right? Favorite whiskey of the year. SCCS sold for $269. Stratosphere stuff. SC? Say more. I'm not sure what that means. Am I missing something on that? SC. That's not the Port Charlotte SC, right? Yeah. It's a lot. Oh, single cask. Sorry. I'm being obtuse. Googly eyes. You can still get a Knock 24s for sub 250. The Knock 24 is so good. That was my whiskey of the year a couple years ago. And if I like revisited it, it still would be. It's fantastic. It's to this day one of the best whiskeys I've ever had. The thing about a Knock is they fly under the radar, and honestly, their young stuff isn't like anything to write home about, right? The 12 is whatever. That is really good though, Ken. Ooh. Okay, let me just see really quick here. I'm gonna just take a quick look. I gotta sign off after this, folks. I'm starting to, if it hasn't been noticeable, starting to get that feel. So I don't want to belabor this. Unless anybody wants to toss me a super chat, I'll keep on. Kidding. Port Charlotte 18. $229 at Malibu Liquors. California. They will deliver to me. $229. No. What about the rate? Okay, so $159 for the Brook Lottie 18, so the non-peated. That's actually not terrible. $2,295 for the Brook Lottie 30. Yeah, no. $150 for the 30 or the 18-year-old Brook Lottie. I don't think I'm going to do that. That's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah, I don't know, y'all. I mean, those are high prices. I feel like in this environment, we're increasingly looking for those value buys, and it's harder and harder. This is why distilleries like Ben Romick, which I've been hyping for a couple of years now. Ben Romick Peat Smoke Sherry Cask was my whiskey of the year last year, 2 years ago. Where you can still find Ben Romick's really cheap. I mean, that's a distillery that you want to talk about like criminally good values. Boonhaven is always perennial with the value. I'm trying to think of some others that I feel like are good value buys right now. I mean, Lefroy is always, at least on their regular stuff, is pretty fair. Ardbeg is insane. The Lagavulins mostly insane. Kilholman's overpriced. Brook Lottie is obviously, we've been talking about that. Kalila, I don't know. You know, there's not that many out there, right? But if you find those, I think Ben Romick was a classic example of a distillery that makes really quality whiskey and that you can get at a really, really nice price. Edgerdour, you know, as Daniel just mentioned, Edgerdour. Yeah. So there are gems to be found. You know, you just got to kind of take risk and you got to do your research. Okay. With that, folks, I do appreciate everybody hanging out for part 2. Again, I apologize for the issues in making this a 2-part video, but it's so cool to see folks hanging out. It's great to reconnect and be in community with y'all. Keep an eye out. Balvenie 15 Madeira cask review is going to pop soon. We learned a lot about Ben Nevis, or at least I did. Thank you guys for hanging out for the journey, man. I'll raise this glass. Solange, we'll catch you next time. Be well.